Hey, it's working today. I tried going live the other day. Or was it yesterday? I don't even remember. It wouldn't let me on. It said the internet traffic was too high. It took me a half an hour. But we were talking about forward facing and a little bit. Oh, and dry eyes kicking up. But I was just curious, how forward facing. Frank, what's up, my man? How's forward facing ruining fishing, Frank? I'm just curious. You're well informed. What are they saying on the interwebs? Everybody who puts forward facing on there gets like 2.5 million views and a bunch of conversations. So I figured I might as well just join in the party and talk about forward facing. At least start with it. I'm just curious what you've heard. How in the heck is a depth finder ruining fishing? I'm curious because I don't have any idea what they've come up with. A few people coming in, 3 people. Welcome aboard, everyone. You can have mine, dude. I don't even use it around here. There's so many pads and weeds and stuff. It doesn't work very good. I've taken it back up to Georgia though, back up to lakes that I actually, know. And it's hotter than the third level of hell out there right now. So I was thinking about going fishing this weekend, but man, it's brutally hot. I was talking to my neighbor Rodney about it, and nah, pass. I tell you what, man, you get stuck up, you get like lazy. It was easier when the lake was like miles away and you had to like go there. Now that it's like right here, just 1,200 feet away, it's like, no, I'll wait for it's too windy. It's too hot. Mike, what's up, man? So, Michael, how has forward facing ruined? How is it going to ruin bass fishing? I'm just curious what you've heard on the social media stuff. We can make fun of everybody's ignorant opinions. I don't see how it does anything at all. I don't even think the studies that I've seen, it doesn't even change the catch rates of even like for crappie fishermen. They did a study that I read was about crappie, and everybody's in a mad panic attack. You're going to ruin the crappie fishing. I was like, I don't know how you're going to do that. I think nature sometimes takes the crappie out and the big lakes, and you know things cycle in big lakes. you know they're different. They're like, it's like pushing in one direction and then pushing in another direction with bigger lakes, like, so that things go crazy. Ponds will get stuck. Ponds tend to, like, if you get a stunted bass pond. Now if you get a stunted pond like a 10,000 acre lake, it's gonna, that size class of fish is gonna get stuck. That's just how it is. It's cheating. It's too easy. Here, we'll put that up. Frank's got a good points there. Um, you don't need to know how to catch fish, and it leads to overharvest. Okay, again, that's my question. It's always gone to that. Everybody's overharvesting these fish. Who even sees anybody keep any fish? Like, when's the last time you even saw somebody take a stringer of bass? Oh, and that chick Sarah Parvin that she follows. I've followed her for a long time. She's growing bluegill over in Alabama. I saw her running a shock survey on her socials, and they were harvesting all the bluegill that they caught with the electrofishing boat under 10 inches long, because they're, trophy bluegill management. Not one person on the list of comments went in there and told her she was ruining her fishery by keeping bluegill. Not one. So if you can't ruin a fishery by keeping bluegill, how in the heck are you ruining it by keeping bass? That's my question. Who's keeping all these fish? Who are the magic? Are there like elves? Are there garden gnomes that are going out there at night and harvesting these fish? You don't need to know how to catch fish. Well, that's funny too, because if they say you don't need to know how to catch fish to use forward facing, then why do I keep seeing these videos about guys who are amazed about what we learned? We talked about that last time. Amazed that the fish are right there and they can't catch them. Yeah, no kidding. And the more like you can train a fish, right? They don't have like complex brains, but they do have brains. Like Dr. Gilbert, he's a perfect example. He's a guy who taught me all this stuff in college. His master's project, he told us all about it. He took a coat hanger, right? And he had like a round one. He bent a coat hanger and had it come down. So it was like this big. And it was one was round, one was square, one was a rectangle, one was a triangle. So I think he had like 4. And he had different tanks with different bass. And he was able to train the bass to swim through the round one, the square one, the triangle, the rectangle. That's what that bass was trained to do. And he worked on it, worked on it, worked on it, and it got a food reward for when it did it right. And it didn't eat when it, he didn't starve it or anything, but he didn't reward it if it didn't swim the pattern the proper way. And it didn't take him very long to get the fish to swim the patterns. It was part of his thesis, or maybe it was his whole thesis. I can't remember. But the point is, if you reward the fish, right, it will remember tomorrow, the next day. It has a certain amount of time. I don't even remember what that is. And there's probably been a study out there that would disprove any number that I threw out. So I'm not even going to try. But the point is, it's all right. The second way we know they can remember things. The feeder. You'll see all the bluegill gathering around a timed feeder when it's automatic every day. If it's 7 and 7 or whatever, the bluegill will congregate right around it right before the feed goes off. They'll get trained to it. They know. And I've always said it this way. If you can train a fish to feed, you can train a fish not to feed, right? So they're not going to like the experience of being caught. And on high pressure public lakes, that's reinforcing a negative situation for the fish. The fish is not going to enjoy being caught, right? He's going to get caught. And the next day, just like the fish, now maybe not the next day, but over a repeated period of time on a public lake where there's fishing pressure every single day, and we see it in our ponds, we see it in our lakes, you see it everywhere. That's why new lures work for a while and stop working. You can train a fish not to feed. All right, Chris has got a point here. Let's see what he's talking about. So he uses the forward facing at times on smallmouth, and it doesn't make them easier to catch. No kidding. I agree. I don't see how it could. Sure, absolutely. You're going to be dialing in fish. But that's kind of the point that I was getting to, Chris. Okay, so now you've got boats, you've got sonar, you've got a fish with a lateral line system, eyes and ears. It's very aware of its environment, and you're pulling up with forward facing and you're dialing them right in, right? You're dead on top of them, and you're within 50 feet of them, 40 feet of them, whatever, 100 feet of them pretty quickly. I would say for the forward facing people, the closer you get and the more you negatively train them, the faster they're going to pick up on what you're doing, and you're going to have to shut that system down. And actually, I kind of had a conversation with Oliver about that. He finds him and shuts his off, which I think that's probably where it's going to go. You're reinforcing, you're consistently, and the more people who get them and the more people who use them, the more you're going to make those fish and why are those fish out in some weird place, right? Why are they not right up on the banks? Well, they've learned, don't go near the banks. You get caught at the bank. The pressure's coming from the bank. Usually the bank anglers are fishing from the bank throwing out, and the boaters are at the bank throwing in. The boaters crack me up that I always want to beat the banks. It's like, what are you in the boat for if you're just beating the damn banks? Just walk the bank. And that's another good reason to why paralleling the banks always is an effective technique. Most people don't. Most people are throwing it that way and throwing it this way, right? So don't be like most fishermen. Do things just a little bit differently. Present the lure a little bit differently. Same with the new lures, right? You're presenting something new a little differently. Well, forward facing, the more these guys get those dialed in, the more they crank right up on top of the fish, the more the fish are going to be like, no, I got you figured out, Holmes. So I think it will. Remember, oh, well, here's a perfect example. Remember these? I've got a whole pile of them right here. We can look at that guy. Some of Jen's work. How about this one? Nice little rainbow trout pattern I got right there, and one of Mike's swim baits. There's another one that I got a nice bite on. More, that's Jen's custom paint work there. Right? Why do I buy these? Why in the heck would you spend $100 on a lure? Because not many people do. That's why I do it. Who's throwing $100, $150, $200 lures out there? Who's even got the stones to do it? Right? You confident in your knot tying? You better be when it's two bills on the end of the line. So that's why I fish them, because not everybody's they're not gonna see them that much. It's exactly why I fish them. MD, what's up, my man? Yeah, there we go. That's a good question. Have the bass trained to feed on the grouped up bluegill? And do you see predation on bluegill when the feeder goes off? Excellent question. And the answer is yes and yes. And actually, to combine that even together, too, the half the bass that we picked up for that pond were trained to feed. They were feed trained bass. So you'll see bass go over there and eat the pellets, too, because they were trained to eat them when they were fry. That's also another reason why we have an obnoxiously high amount of scoliosis on some of our northerns, because you're feeding a freaking predator tofu as fry. It throws some malnourishment. You do it exactly wrong, or just a little, not exactly wrong, but a little wrong, and you get a little scoliosis. I've always seen a higher incident of scoliosis with feed trained bass. And I don't like using feed trained bass. I only use them when I have to. And you get what you get. People think it's like Kmart or Walmart or whatever stores nearby you. Well, I'm just going to go buy whatever fish I want. No, you're not. It's a fish farm. All right. There's going to be some fish available sometimes. You're going to get what you get when you go to the fish hatchery. And they just get dumbfounded when, they sold out. I can't find them anywhere. Yeah, no kidding. They're sold out. They sold all their fish. That was a good thing for their business, People get all bent on that. But so you got a lot of feed trained bass these days, because it's a marketing ploy, really. I don't want feed trained. I want my bass going in at 2-3 inches long. They're available about this time of year. They've been hatched out, and they've been, swimming around, eating zooplankton, and you can't move them at that size. They're so fragile, they'll just die. So they got to get to a couple of inches in size, and then they're safe to be handled and moved. That's what I want. I want my predatory fish that God made to eat other fish in the water, eating fish, not tofu, not 60 or 50%, protein and 50% whatever the hell else is in that pellet. No, I don't want them eating that. I want them eating fish. And because it'll take, you go get like an 8-9 inch, feed train bass at the hatchery. That's a year-old fish. Well, I can grow that fish in 4 months, not even 1.1 millimeters per day. That's what I was recording. And then I called the dude and I was like, what is the growth rate? I'm getting about 1 millimeter a day, maybe a little bit more, but I'm getting a solid millimeter a day on my bass growth. I was tracking it real close, what's max growth? What do you see? What would I expect max growth to be? It's exactly what the dude said, 1.1 millimeters per day. So I broke that down. I think it's about 1 inch a month. But yes, MD, you will absolutely see them take advantage of bluegill when the bluegill have taken their eyes off their environment and begin to feed. It's pretty brutal, really. I've really seen and caught a lot of bass taking advantage of that situation too, knowing that the feeder is going to go off. You just roll one of those past through there as the feeder goes off. Yeah, bass will light that up. So I'll use that against them to catch fish. You want to cheat and eat my bluegill? I'm going to cheat and catch your butt. That's how that works. But yeah, I've witnessed that for 30 years now. Bass absolutely adapt to that feeder and will drop them. I mean, drop the hammer on them. But that's what we want them doing. That's what the bluegill are there for. All right, I thought I saw something. Yeah, that's exactly right, Frank. Those saying it's ruining fisheries, but they don't quantify exactly how. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. They have no evidence. They don't have no data. They have no measurements at all. And like I said, the studies that I've seen, forward facing isn't even upping the limits on a species of fish guys normally keep. Crappy. The guys, the biologists are sitting at the boat ramp, counting the coolers full of fish to conduct the study, and then do what scientists do, used math to prove statistically that uh, you know you guys aren't keeping out any more fish than you used to be keeping the last looking back across the last 10 times we've done these harvest surveys. You guys aren't harvesting any more fish than you used to. There's no mathematical evidence you've done anything. The only thing that's changed is your perception of what's happening, but it hasn't changed the math. So, it just makes me laugh. It hasn't changed a thing. I've seen fishermen say, "Well, I saw guys. They had a stringer of fish at the ramp. This one time they went fishing." Like, okay, what lake? Well, some dude told me one time he was like Lake Lanier, like 30,000 acres of water, and you're worried about one stringer of bass. You think that one stringer of bass? Well, no, but everybody's doing it. It's like, nah, go check every live well. Go check every single cooler in that parking lot. I guarantee most of those coolers have got water and beer in them. Nobody's keeping fish. I couldn't even get guys. Guys would pay me a couple stacks to go electrofish their pond. Dudes with plenty of bread, $1,500, $2,000, ride out. Go do your job. Go be a biologist. You need to keep these fish. Go back the next year. How many fish you keep? None. Well, why not? Well, we thought you just do it. That's another complete misconception. Just do it with the electrofishing boat. Like, that's easy. Like, every fish is going to float up as soon as I turn that thing on. That's not how that works either. You're lucky to see 1-2% of the fish. Like, you might see 2% of the fish in like a 1 to 3 acre pond. Once you start getting to 5 acre ponds and bigger, the fish get away from that thing, man. They don't. You don't catch hardly a percentage point of the fish that the pond can hold an electrofishing boat. And I can't count the number of times. I wish I had $1 for every time I heard, "Oh, I want to see what the biggest fish in this lake is." And I would have to say, if you're hiring me to do that, you need to stop paying me, because that's not what this is. We're not gonna. We have a much better chance of seeing a big fish if you have some, but we're not gonna look at all the fish in the lake. I mean, it's not how this thing works. But exactly, Frank. Good point. They have no math. They have some observations that skew their perspective to form an opinion. And the one thing that I definitely try to do here is not give you my opinion. I try to stay with what they taught us in school and stick with the math. and the science and the statistics and the proven facts. And I try to make a note, hey, this is my opinion. If I don't say this is my opinion, I'm getting that from college. You're going to have to take it to Georgia, you know, and Clemson and Auburn and the University of Illinois and every other university and college that has run a fisheries program and go prove them wrong. And you're going to need advanced statistics and math to do it. Good luck. Because they've been doing it for like 100 years now. So you got a task ahead of you. Go disprove science, Kemosabe. Big balling is your hobby. All right, MD's got another one. Oh, no, that's the same one. Sorry, I went backwards. Getting redundant already. Drunk on the water. Let's see what's the next one here. Poe folks, welcome aboard, my friend. Don't remember seeing you before. Glad to have you in. If you were here, I apologize. He says, well, I mean, it makes it easier. It makes it easier for sure. And the thing that I found that made it really easy is it's really not. I like the fact that it was showing me the rock bottom. Like it shows like the predator, how like infrared. Like when you're on soft bottom and then you go across rock, it changes color on that thing really well. So in the lakes that I was back home in Georgia, we got a lot of silt and sediment and crap like that. And it was showing me the rock, showing me the wood real well, showing me gives you a different angle, and it also gives you a line to cast on. So you can get them dialed in for sure, but that still doesn't mean you're going to catch them. I mean, I had ponds where I knew the fish were going to be in we shocked up big fish there every single pass, every single year, every single time I was out there once a month, usually. If I was in a good pond or a good lake that I knew there was a spot right there that we fish up, I would fish it. I fished every day for 15, 20 years, and no, like sometimes just because you know where the fish are doesn't exactly mean you're going to catch those fish. I certainly never did. Yeah, good point, Frank. They're not keeping those fish anyway, but as long as they're not over harvesting, and even if they did, I don't think it would matter very much on these bigger lakes. Now on ponds, you can over harvest a pond pretty easy. You can make a significant impact on a pond, especially under 10 acres. Once it goes past 10, once you get out to like the 15, 20 acre range, even in that, it's still I consider that small. You're not going to go like a 20 acre pond. That's 400 1-pounders or 200 2-pounders before you've even started changing the balance of the pond. Like if I go to a 20 acre pond, right, and I tell the dude, you need to harvest 20 pounds of bass per acre to correct this bass population. That's 400 1-pound fish for 20 acres of water. So that should give you a frame of reference, right? And you usually need to do that 2 years in a row, and then you'll start to see the bass, changing in size and starting to, that you start seeing the dynamics of the pond changing once you've gotten 800 bass out of a 20 acre pond over a 2-year period. That's the kind of effort that is required to actually make a difference. But you cut that down to 5 acres, you're in 50 fish. 50 fish is a catchable number for one guy or two guys. You catch 100 and you're knocking it, you're knocking out, you're changing the dynamics. If you don't need to harvest that pond, you probably don't need to be harvesting 100 bass out of 10 acres. That's going to be getting into the point where you're pushing it too hard. But still, I mean, how long does it take you to catch 100 fish? Oh, MD's got one here. I watch that guy sometimes. Yeah, they're already learning then. They're already talking about seeing that. That's interesting. Called it. Hell yeah, they'll scatter. They'll figure that crap out quick, and or just shut their jaw tight and close it. Be like, yeah, guess again, Holmes. They'll figure that junk out quick, real quick. Of course, I'll tell you a secret. Well, I think I've told that secret on here before. I'll tell you another secret though. So let's just say MD, he's got a pond behind his house, right? And he's got an automatic feeder. Well, I've done this a couple times. And it was with dudes who had so much money that they had like caretakers for the 25,000 acres of property that they had, literally. Dudes like that had bread and had dudes that kept the cows and the horses fed and the whatever else they had going on out there, and they just gave them the extra task of feeding the fish, right? Well, of course those dudes also had fish feeders, and one of the guys, his caretaker's name was Juan, and Juan was a good dude. I think he passed on, but Juan was like, how do we make the fishing killer in here? Like, what do I need to do anything? Could I do anything more? And I was like, well, actually you could. I said, do you have like you got an extra half an hour in the evening or something, or in the morning, or just, whenever you feed, right? He's like, yeah, I got a little time. I'm like, all right. I was like, instead of keeping the feeder on the dock, he's like, yeah. I said, put the feeder on the boat, because he literally had like a covered dock where the feeder was, or where the boat and the feeder was on a covered dock. So no rain got in the boat. It's all real nice. I said, instead of keeping the feeder stationary, let's try this. Put the feeder in the boat, back the boat out of the dock, and drive around the lake and hit the button on different locations, random locations too. Don't do them in the same places every time. But what we did then was we trained the fish to respond positively to the boat. So anytime anybody got on that boat, the pond came alive and literally followed the boat, because they knew the feeder was on it. And that dude thought I was a genius. Like, he gave me, I got a good Christmas bonus from that dude. He was like, man, I don't know what you guys have been doing out here, but the fishing's incredible. I was like, well, maybe we cheated a little. Maybe we hedged it into our favor a little bit. He's like, there's schools of fish everywhere we go. I'm like, no, there's schools of fish following the boat, but yeah. Tomato. All right. So Josh Jones. Now that dude is a hammer out there. That's the dude that fishes OHIV, right? He says he explains it perfectly with four. No, you don't need it to understand. If once you know where the fish are, man, you don't even need a depth finder. I used to kayak fish and knock out those fish all the time on public water. Did I catch them every time I went? Heck no. But that's the course. I was only over there because there was big fish in it. So the first thing I know in my mind, when you've got the pond set up for big fish, you got a small lake producing big fish, they're in lower numbers per acre. There's not as many bass there. So you just need to adjust your mind, right? To some days I'm going to get skunked. Like most days I'm going to get skunked. There's lower numbers of bass per acre in here, but I have a much higher percentage of when I get a bite that it's the bite that I'm looking for. Because I spent so many years catching 1-pounders and filleting 1-pounders and giving 1-pounders to people who would eat them. I mean, I was up to my butt in 1-pound bass all the time. I could care less if I ever catch another one. I'm not fishing for 1s, 2s, 3s. It's not, you don't even have my interest until it goes above 7 pounds usually. Just put a fillet knife on it. I don't care. You ain't hurt none. Frank catches 100 fish an hour. Watch out for old Frank. Hey, 12 folks. Welcome aboard, everyone. Okay, so that's another good point. You can see him react to your lure. Yeah. Yep, that's a solid point that I didn't consider. Like, if you're out there and, you're putting stuff down right on top of them. I've actually see that video that the kid hit the fish with the dang lure dropping down? But again, I think like we just talked about, yeah, you're gonna see them react to that lure a few times, but they're gonna learn. The more people buy them. Yeah, that's the dude. Yeah, Josh. Yeah, I watch that dude. I see that dude on Facebook a lot. Man, that guy's freaking hammering them. But again, why is he hammering them? Is he the world's greatest bass fisherman? Well, I'm not taking away from the kid. The kid can flat out fish, obviously, right? But what I'm saying is he's in OHIV and he's in like a 20,000 acre reservoir that's experiencing new lake effect. All right. So is everybody going to be so impressed this time next year when we're out on the 2.5 acre pond at Sugar Hill Outdoors and I'm just whacking, 6, 7, 8 pound fish? That's going to be experiencing new lake effect too, right? We've got an unnatural, the OHIV almost drained and then it filled back up. And when it recovered, the state of Texas is really good at what they do. Those biologists have done a good job, but that lake's not going to continue to produce those fish forever like that. That lake's going to cycle. It's going to change. The balance is going to get bumped in a weird direction. Excuse me. And that will shut down. There's 13-pound fish aren't going to be produced out there forever. That's just understanding limnology, right? Which is the study of lakes. And they cycle, and the first 7 years after they fill back up, there is their most productive, and then they'll start to drop off. And it'll happen. It happens there. It happens. It's going to happen everywhere. So he's basically just fishing a 20,000 acre. What I'm telling people to do with their pond, drain it and restock it. You'll get those types of results for a limited period of time. If I own my own personal pond, that's all I would do is drain and restock it every 10 years. If I had 2 ponds, I'd drain one and restock it and wait a couple years and then drain the next one and restock it. So I have a couple good years of fishing on one while the other one was where the good fishing was coming back around. Actually, I've done that a few times. You can hardly ever, out of 30 years, I mean, like this many people have listened to that advice. They don't do it. So that's why we don't have this whole, like, I can't go and show you these examples. I'm fortunate to have the one pond that I've got to show you the example. Like what I put up 4.2 pounds today in 25 months. That ain't even that good, really. That's a pure northern fish. I got F1s growing weight better than that. Yeah, forget about that one, bro. 100% relative weight. They don't even speak that language, Drew. Oh, you're asking me a question. I misread that. Okay, so you got a bunch of threes, and if threes is all you're catching, all right, I mean a little more information than that, my friend. How big is the body of water? How old is the body of water? Is it fed? So on and so forth. I'm with you, Hooky, man. I'm with you on that one, dude. I've been enjoying the kayak fishing way more, to the point where I might even sell the damn boat. Um, Not that I don't like my boat. I really do like the boat, but there's 2 things working against the boat. One, I've got to hook it up, and 2, I've got to be on it. And I was on an aluminum boat for my entire career, and it just feels like work. Loading up the kayak doesn't feel like work to me. It's a more enjoyable thing. Um, it's just the repetitiveness of the things that you do at work, And for me, that's hooking up a boat trailer, making sure the lights are working, doing all the stuff involved with a boat. I don't want to do it, and throwing the yak up on the ladder rack, is no big deal. Or sometimes I'll throw it in the bed, the 360 Jackson that I got. I love that thing. That's a really comfortable rig too. Fits in the long bed, just drive it down to the lake, throw it in, zip it around I got a little 55 thruster on the back. I could do a video of it. It's a cool little rig, but I'd honestly rather fish off that than off the boat. I'll be on the boat, and sometime like today, that's exactly the reason why I didn't go today, because I did not want to be on a hot aluminum boat. It had nothing to, I wanted to go fishing. I just didn't want to do it on a hot aluminum boat. So more than half the time I'm using my kayaks down there, and just fishing out of them because it's just more enjoyable for me. Good point, Frank. You'd only get to fish for him 6 months. So by the time he comes back around, they forgot everything. But that's actually really true. I mean, I know you're joking, but it's actually the truth. I've been to ponds and these dudes are like, there's something wrong. The pond's screwed up. Okay, why is the pond screwed up? Well, I'm not catching any fish. It's not a reason for the pond to be screwed up. Let's do an electrofishing survey and see what's going on. Let's see if the pond is actually messed up, or is it your perception that the pond is messed up? You like how I tied that together? That was pretty smooth. So their perception is wrong because I put the electrofishing boat in, 3 acres usually, 5 acres, usually a pond about that size. And do the electrofishing survey, and the bluegill population looks great. The bass population looks great. You got fish all 95% and above on your relative weights. Everything looks fine. There's actually, mathematically, scientifically, pond management, like expert wise, there's not a dang thing wrong with this pond. Well, I can't catch any fish out of it. Like, okay. What have you been doing? Well, I've shown them every lure Bass Pro Shop has. Ran the paint off rattle trap in there. Yeah. Stop doing that. You just answered your own question. If you'd listened to me, you showed them every lure Bass Pro Shop has. And you fish it every day, right? Oh yeah, every day, every afternoon we're out there. Me and the kids go down there, and I mean, we just we were wearing them out, and now we're not. Yeah, no kidding. Stop for about 2 months. Give it a good long stretch. Go fishing someplace else. Don't fish in that pond. All right, and again, the smaller the pond, the faster this happens. Clint's getting a little bit of that now. He just lets everybody fish. He's too kind, he's letting them go. He's letting them fish. One kid caught one, I think 5.5, 5.6. I think that's the biggest fish we pulled out of there so far, but it's already begun. What did he catch it on? Live bluegill. So that's fine. All we got to do is just back off of it for a month or 6 weeks or so, and they'll forget. It'll come. The fishing, you can control the fishing in a pond, is what I'm getting at. You ain't controlling the fishing in Lake Lanier, and I just bring Lake Lanier up. It's a lake in Georgia for anybody who's not familiar with it. It's about 30,000 acres, but it gets literally 1 million boats on it on the weekend, on like a holiday weekend. A literal 1 million boats. You could almost walk across the lake on 4th of July on so many boats. It's probably if it's not the most heavily pressured, it's number 2. And it shows up in the fishing. It's really tough to fish out there. It's heavily pressured. Exact same thing going on in my backyard right now. When the fish turn on out there, the guides just swarm this place like a bunch of bees, and they do it with golden shiners this dang long. So not only is the lake behind the house heavily pressured with guide fishing daily, it's heavily pressured with guide fishing with live bait. So the bass have become really, really in tune to the boats. Talk about tying in parallels. Yeah, you have to be good on Rodman. Rodman's one of the toughest places I've ever fished, ever. And I think it's a kind of a perfect storm. There's big fish out there. Those guys are pulling 10s. All right, Poe's got one coming through. He says, check out the, I'm going to have to, I don't know that one. I don't know that Zaldane. He started dominating crappy tournaments. Yeah, I bet he did. Crappy or stupid. They'll never figure it out. They say you got a 30-acre pond. You've been fishing since April. You got a bunch of 5s. and got a 7. I'd say as long as those, those fish are in a good spot. Now you will see 30 acres of water will top out, starting about the 10-acre range to about the 30-acre range. All those manage about the same. And on older ones, especially like on new ones, brand new ones, again, earlier than 7 years that are stocked properly, you'll get fish past 10 on those. Pretty easy. But you might start seeing that top out, that like we'll get it to like 9.5, but it tops out. And now you're dealing with something like an energy expenditure thing, right? So it takes a certain amount of calories for the bass to stay alive. It takes a certain amount of calories for his metabolism, everything to work, breathe, all that. Then you got to add calories for growth. So you get into a situation where like a bass bluegill pond doesn't have enough. You'll get so many fish in like that 7, 8, 9 pound range in there that you can catch them almost every time you go on ponds that size, but they don't seem to get any bigger. And they don't get any bigger. Like you won't bust DD on there on an older pond like that. A lot of them have crappie. That's part of the problem. But another problem you can have, I've seen this even on ponds that didn't have them. You don't have enough large forage for that caloric intake to make that next level jump, right? Those big lakes like OH Ivy are going to have like gizzard shad, big, huge forage and big schools of huge forage that those bass that are in that 8, 9 pound size class have another level of large forage to go to, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do at Sugar Hill this year. We're going to be adding rainbow trout in the springtime or in the wintertime so the bass can feed on them next spring. And I'll probably add gizzard shad too, because Clint wants the biggest bass he can grow in there. And like normally I would not do that, but the way that pond lays out, I've been around this enough times to know we're not going to have any problems with gizzard shad. And even if I do, I got Garrett with a shock rig and a gill net's very effective on gizzard shad ponds that size. So I'm not really worried about the shad running me out of the gym, so to speak. And I need big forage to grow big fish. So that's exactly what we're going to do and provide that next terrace that the big bass can climb up and get on. And the nice thing about trout too is like you spend some money on them, but you feed them all winter. You can fish for them all winter. You can have a good time fishing for them all winter. And then when they die, they'll grow, they'll get pretty big on feed. But when they die, since they're so big, they're probably in that 1.5 pound size class, so they're big and easy for bass to eat, but none of the smaller bass can eat them. You're only going to be getting the plus size fish chewing on them. So it's a strategically placed forage for big fish. We dang sure do, man. I fly fished out there a little bit and caught some fish. I had this, what else I caught, man? Do I have it here? Oh, I think I took it outside. Dude, Frank, I had this fly. I caught that shoal bass on it. I was showing Rudd. I ran into Rudd on the river that day and was showing it to him. And he was like, no wonder that thing smoked it. So it was just like, I probably it was a saltwater fly. I got it at the saltwater shop in St. Augustine. So I don't know what the name of it was, but it had the red eyes, lead. So it's like casting a brick. I was on an 8-weight, so I've got room to work with the heavier fly, but it's jerking me all over the place with the weight. But easy to cast, so heavy, but I don't know, probably like 6 inches long. And then right at the top, they took a piece of foam and glued it in to the tail of that fly. And it was bright green, like, emergency road construction green, whatever, chartreuse green foam as a strike indicator. But what it did, man, is it caused that fly, because it was foam, that fly had a drop rate like that. It almost like like a barely falling jerk bait. like it just suspended and just hung in the water because of that foam, and it kept that fly. It kept it nose down with the lead head, and it just dropped. I mean, ever so slowly. So when I was fly fishing for that at that shoal bass thing that kayak adventure series that Drew invited me to, and I was digging around in a fly box, and they said Helgramites. Everybody was kind of on a Helgramite pattern. They said that, try something Helgramite, and I was like, that's actually in the range of a really big Helgramite. And I got to messing with it just right there around at me, and that's when I realized how they had that thing set up with that strike indicator causing the slow rate. I was like, oh, I'm fishing this thing all day. And man, I saw the fish move out from under the rock. It was probably only like 20 feet in front of me. I saw a tail, and I shot that fly ahead of it and let it fall down next to that rock. And as soon as it got next to that rock, I just let it fall right in there where I saw that fish move. And as soon as it got there, I gave it one little quick strip. So it hopped it, whacked, just nailed nice 18-inch shoal bass with it, and got to watch it eat it. It was awesome. But yeah, that's a good idea, Frank. That's a real good idea. And a good idea. Like I used to do real well on all large streamers and ponds because they never saw them. So again, just like these big swim baits that Mike makes, right? I was just ahead of these when these things started getting popular way back when. Even before that, before they got real popular, even when California was just making like the glide bait, like trout stuff, I was already on big streamers in ponds and knocking bass in the head with them. It didn't take them long to figure that trick out, and I knew exactly what would happen. And it just reminds me of the swim bait guys. The swim bait guys thought they had a cheat code. Remember that way back? Oh man, we went out there and caught like all these big fish, and they just thought they were the greatest fishermen in the world. Well, guess what? They don't work so good anymore, do they? Same thing with forward facing. They'll figure it out. Oh, nice. See? Rodman does have big fish in it, doesn't it? Hit me up, man, if you want to go fishing. We'll roll over there. It's just 1,200 yards down the bottom of the hill. I'm in Cedar Landing, right where the lake opens up big. Jump on the boat anytime, man. Oh, okay. Now I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Those elite pros, that was interesting. They were in Palatka. They were on the St. John's. They're putting in on the St. John's in Palatka. But I didn't even count. I had to go back to go back to my video I made and count how many pros didn't even fish the river, man. They ran all the way down here. It's got to be like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 miles. I'm not even sure how far it is to river. I've never gone that far. It's further than that. It's 7 miles back. They ran like hell to get in here. I mean, and they came blowing up in here. They came down that barge canal chine walking, boys. I mean, just foo, 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 foo. Just all of them too. Like Rick Clun came back there. The kid, I don't follow it that close, so I can't call all their names. Milliken came back in here. I need to ask Milliken where he went fishing. The kid with the ugly stick and the mullet, he was back there. I marked all their spots. But they were pretty much on just outside the barge canal over there. There's nothing magical. Like they weren't. I would say every one of those guys, Rick Clun included, was not 100 yards from places I've caught fish before. I wasn't exactly on the same spots those dudes were fishing, but they weren't far off. And then certain guys went to certain spots back in the timber they knew they were holding fish. But that's easy to find. You just use a topo map. Just find the depth changes in the standing timber. Wherever there's a ledge, that's where you need to go. White perch, yellow perch, bluegill, and crappie. Now, to me, white perch and crappie are the same thing. Some people call crappie white perch or speckled perch. They'll call them specks. Sockeye or something they call them out in Louisiana. So I'm not familiar. I am familiar with the yellow perch, but a true white perch. So like it, I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm not familiar. The big weight baits have been working in Massachusetts, I bet. Yeah, it's, like I said, man, it's just something unique, something they don't see all the time. That's what I go to. Um, I had a big old bass the other day. It's that 3 pounder that I caught on stupid 11-inch trick shad. Um, the trick shad's not stupid. The 3 pounder was stupid. I was watching it because it was coming with I mean, it was coming with aggression. You know what I mean? It was that wide at the back of its head. That was a big old bass coming for it. And when I've learned on that, don't slow down when they start tracking your bait. Don't pause it. Smoke it. Um, you so badly want to pause, you know what I mean? But especially here in Florida, like that's a big mistake. They want the speed here. They don't want it paused. As soon as you pause it, they'll get off of it. And I had made the cast, and the water's real clear out there. We haven't had hardly any rain. And South Florida got bombarded. And they had to build an ark and hide all the animals on it last week, but we didn't get any of that. And it's dry as crap here, so the lake's clear. It's not tannic at all. You can see them. You can see them like everywhere. It's like there's a little gator. It's like a petting zoo. There's tilapia. There's bluegill. There's whatever. You can just see the fish everywhere. And that big old fish was tracking that 11-inch trick shad, and just like a classic idiot 3 pounder does, goes and just smokes it. Like, I don't know. It gets the attention of everything, and then the fish that was closest to it, got there first. And it was a 3 pounder, and screwed me up. It's like, what are you doing eating 11-inch bait, you stupid 3 pounder? Oh, that's interesting. Po Folk says the hybrid bite gets tough, and then the fly rods begin to work. I'm not surprised though, man. It's not surprising at all. I mean, fly fishing gets a bad rap, and I can see why. It's kind of like fishing with a golfer. Sometimes there's not too many cool fly fishermen. They're kind of be elitist sometimes, but I don't know. I fish with what works. And I did, man. When I went out in Montana, I used to go out west about once a year and trout. I always liked trout fishing. We always had the Chattahoochee. It came out of the back of Lake Lanier, and we trout fish, on spinning tackle. So the first few times I went out to Montana, I was like, man, I'm gonna bring my little ultralight spinning rod out there and check it out, see what's up, see if I can. Now, did I catch trout? Heck yeah, I caught trout. Did I catch trout like the fly fishermen were catching? Heck no, I did not. They would not eat a Mepps, number one Mepps. They would not eat a Penn's minnow. They catch a few. Now, I did catch the biggest brook trout I've ever seen on a Penn's minnow out there. That little brookie flew. Oh, he was not a little brookie. That thing was a tank. But I think that was why that big brookie took that, because he hadn't seen a Penn's minnow ever. And that's how I was able to pull that fish out of there. But no, I went out there a few times with spinning tackle and, like 4 pound, 4 to 6 pound test line, messed around with my line sizes and stuff. And it did not give me a significant advantage. My buddy would have 20 fish days, and I was having 2-3 fish days on spinning tackle. And I was like, all right, I'm putting that spinning rod up, get the fly rod out. But you got to understand too, you're matching the hatch on the flies. All right, here comes a good one. Let's see what we got. 22-acre pond. 710. That's a big fish for up north. That mag draft does work too. Sounds like it's in good shape to me, man. Without some actual relative weights. But the white perch up there too. I'm gonna have to look that one up. 2 pounds. They're probably pretty good to eat. Yellow perch are good. It's a cage. Well, see, that's a new one on me, dude. A milk bag? I don't know. I saw an old woman in South Georgia one time call a largemouth bass a green trout. So I don't know, dude. Catching white on the Hudson. That's a good idea, Po folks. I never thought about that. The pop and cork with a fly. That's a great idea, actually. Hmm. I'm gonna note of that. Pop and cork with a damn streamer. How many times you get something to hit the cork? Me and my buddy Mickey, I think he's in Florida right now, but he's way over on the Panhandle. He's over by St. George Island. He likes to go down there because he's from Thomasville. It's just about an hour from there. So they always went down to the Gulf right there. He came down last summer, so I rode over there, and he had a popping cork. I don't know what he had on a popping cork. It wasn't was it live bait or was it a lure? I can't even remember what we had popping corks, but he had a popping cork on. And he's doing it real violent, snapping the hell out of it. And a tarpon comes over and hits the popping cork and just full sends him. Jumps, he flies. Of course, it came out. He didn't. But a daggone tarpon, probably about I don't know, 4-foot long tarpon, ate the stupid popping cork. I've never fished the Hudson either, but I did catch a bass in Central Park. I'm proud. I'm very proud of that. I made a trip to New York a few years ago and actually ran into one of the dudes that followed the page, Billy. But yeah, I caught a what was the name of that place, man? It's up there in the northern part. I think yeah, the northern part of the park. It was like Harlem's Mere, I think they called that place. It was about 20-acre pond in there. And maybe it was the south part. I can't even remember now. I walked all over that stupid park trying to catch a bass. I fished it every place. Every place I went, people told me I wasn't allowed to be fishing there. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't see no fishing signs. One of the ponds in there had smallmouth in it. Some dude was telling me about that. A cop was telling me about that. So he's like, he wasn't like making me quit fishing, even though people told me I shouldn't be fishing there. Again, it's like they should put up a sign that says no fishing if they don't want fishing here. I'm gonna fish till they run me out or give me a ticket. But the cop didn't give me a ticket, so I don't see. I must not. Those people must have been full of it. But anyway, one of those ponds had a lot of rock, and it had smallies in it, which is cool. That's something I don't see. White perch for crab bait, yeah. They use it right here behind the lake. You catch gizzard shad. They use it. The crab pot fishermen come over there and then make like I had one of them. I was like, "Hey man, can I take a picture of this?" No, man, you can't take a picture of this. And I'm like, "Why not?" He goes, "You give my spot away." I'm like, "For real? You think there's not going to be gizzard shad stacked up behind this dam like forever? You think there's going to be so many crab fishermen come over here and are going to get all the gizzard shad out of the freaking Ocklawaha River?" Again, stupid. Whatever. I didn't take his picture. I respected his wishes. It's the translation. Socolate. How do you say that? I don't know. Socolate is a milk bag. There you go. And that makes all the sense in the world if you speak French. Yeah, you never had him hit the cork. That tarpon smoked that cork. Well, I watched him do it. I just happened to be over looking at Wilson. he's he's in a panic. I mean, you know how tarpon are, boy. I mean, it's like you hooked a worn winch. You ain't doing nothing with it. And we're on regular freaking tackle anyway. We just had like medium heavy action spinning tackle like you use for bass. 7-foot sticks, nothing, just back there trying to catch some redfish and whatnot. And that tarpon just had that drag peeling, boy. I mean, just giving him the business. That's what I'm saying, hooking. If there's not a sign, you better put up a sign. If you put up a sign, I'll take it down, pretend I didn't see it. I had them cracked up on the merch. It's like what you need is an aquatic biologist shirt, and then you're never trespassing. You're just doing a fish survey in the wrong location. That hasn't sold any shirts yet, but I thought it was funny. This is not fishing. This is fish populations. Actually, to be technical, you put all the jargon at them. We're doing a fish population assessment using hook and line analysis in the wrong location. And then you're never trespassing. Merch in the shop. What's up, Main Street? How you been, man? I've been meaning to log on. You guys don't follow Jermaine, man. Check him out. He's got a good little podcast going over there. Mainstream Fishing. He's up in New York, man. I just called out New York, man. Is that Harlem's Mere? Am I saying that right? Am I remembering that right? I caught a bass up there in the park. I just went up there to, say I caught a bass. 16 people, man. I'm famous. Welcome aboard, everyone. But yeah, I caught one. I was drop shotting I think it was like is it a 2.8? Do they make a 2.8 bellow stick in that green chartreuse? I threw the tackle box at them too. Threw swim baits in there, threw everything in there. Again, heavily pressured, small body of water, middle of New York, But I drug one up out of there, a little 2-pounder. You got that right, Mainstream. Fishing in that place is a lot different. Now, my read on that pond up there, crappy. They've got, the fish that I caught was low relative weight, probably 80%. I didn't measure it, but I'm just eyeballing it. Not greatest looking bass I've ever seen for sure. Had some lip damage where somebody else had caught him. And there was some crappie in 17 acres of water. So, I know automatically that I'm dealing with for lack of a better term, unhealthy bass population due to competing species. Not that the fish are technically too unhealthy. It's just they're going to be fewer in numbers. And it is what it is. I mean, it fished just like every single crappy population pond I fished, 17 acres, 20 acres of water that I fished in Georgia, hit or miss. No different at all. I drug one out that day that I was proud. Yeah, we were just talking about how pressure can be different, man. Different places. It gets ridiculous pressure out here. Although I bet they weren't too many out there today. I didn't even ride down there and look at it. It's so hot here, boys. Woo. The past probably about a week or 10 days. Now, we haven't had too much heat down here. I'm in Central Florida for any of y'all who don't know. It's been pleasant. It's been pleasant until till about June, really. And then it just we're paying for the nice weather we had. Oh, you got some bellow sticks? Yeah, dude. I've had some luck on the bellow stick too, man. The bellows gill. I got one of the gills right here. We were using it as an example the other day. Shout out to my friends at G Crack, man. There's some good dudes over there. They always hook me up. So we got to give them a shout out periodically. And I mean, G Crack didn't play when they send the baits. They send the baits full send. I was like, we're going to send you some stuff. I was like, okay. Now it might come in a sandwich bag. It's not in the original packaging. But I'm telling you what, boys, I'm talking like the UPS man left the box by the door, and I picked the box up. I about pulled my back out. They sent about 25 pounds of plastic. They did not play. And they've done that a few times for me. They hooked me up a few times. So we always got to mention our friends at G Crack. Shout out G Crack. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, now you're getting into lake size, 100 and 200 acres of water. And them 3 to 6 pounders, that's producing, I like lakes like that. Jermaine is cheating on 6 cents. Somebody better call 6 cents. Hey, those 6 cents dudes are cool too, man. I don't talk to them as much anymore, but when I first got going online, them 6 cents, and I'm pretty sure the dude that I was talking to was like the dude that was like running it. He never really said that to me, and I never asked who I was speaking with over there. But 6 cents does make good stuff, man. Especially that Crush 75 Square Bill and Black Magic. I'll drag that around any day, any old day. I've caught some nice fish on that one. Sure have. Usually in the like the square bill, I don't know, maybe I'm biased. What do you think? The square bill fishing to me is a wintertime thing. I seen it. I've thrown it in the summertime, but it seems to me like for Georgia weather about October. And then that's to me is when I get that little square bill out. But I've been fishing with the bellows in ponds. I remember I was fishing with Wilson again. He's on his farm over there in Thomasville. And it was a pretty good catch too. I have to brag on myself a little bit. But they were fishing from the bank. There's a little like 3 acre pond. I think he's got 2.5, 3 acres over there. But it's nice because it's just like all ledge. They took there's a little clay vein right there that they dug it out, and they took the county created the pond for his family years and years ago. And it's got specks in it, crappy in it, and it's got golden shiners in it, and Lord knows what else. But it does have some pretty decent bass, and that little pond stays pretty good. It is fed too, so that's probably helping it. But Mickey I was in the Yak just messing with a new kayak that I had and put it in the pond, and his buddy was fishing. But there's this one spot we always catch fish in, and they had fished by there half a dozen times on the bank, walking around the pond, and I was in the kayak, and I just told him, I hollered at Mickey, I was like, I'm upsizing, and I upsized to the bellow stick, and on like the second cast, boom, 6-pounder, but it had me around a cypress tree, and I was like, oh, it's gonna break me off. I was on spinning tackle, so I had I think I had like a maybe 15-pound fluoro leader, and there was no weight. I was just letting it fall slow, on a hook, using the hook as a weight, kind of like a trick worm. Big hook, like a 7-8 offset worm hook. And that's all I had on the tackle box. So I just rigged it like that. But that big fish, I put that bellow stick in there. It fell. I hit it on the initial fall. It was almost on the bottom when it hit it, but it picked it up. I saw it, the line jump, hooked the fish, and it tried to beat me. It tried to pull me around the tree, and it had me beat. It was going to bust me off. All it had to do was stay what it was doing, and it would have broke that leader. But it didn't. It decided to come up and pull its head up, and it was around. My line was around the tree like that. But it picked its head up, and when it picked its head up, I just burned the reel and drug him back around the tree real quick. And Mickey saw me do it. He was like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna break." It didn't break. But if he hadn't have come up and picked his head up out of the water, he'd have busted me. Or probably she at 6 pounds, probably female being that big. But that was a little trick I learned a long time ago in the bass club. They pull that head up out of the water, light that reel up. That's your butt. You're coming towards the boat. You messed up jumping on me. You ain't getting tension. Burn the reel when they jump, boys. Wham Bates. What's up, my man? Good to see you. Good to have you in. 18 people. I am officially famous. I think that's a record. I don't think I've seen more than 20 in here ever. Good to have you in, Wham. What's been going on? You been making any lures? Oh man, what you got to do, Frank, is cut you a groove in the ice about 100 yards long. Roll down. Just change that ice thing to like a Dremel bit. Get you a good slot cut in there. That'll do it. I ain't even going on the ice, man. Forget that. I sat on ice on Georgia one time. It got cold enough. It froze over one of my lakes. and it was like, and it was clear ice too, man. It was thick too. It was thick enough that I was brave enough, and I'm talking about I stepped out on it and stepped back. I could have just, turned around and grabbed the bank. I didn't walk out into the pond or nothing. I literally just stood on the edge for 1 second and then stepped back off of it. Even if I went through, I'd have been in 8 inches of water. But it didn't break, didn't even crack. That's the only time I've done it once in Georgia. I stood on ice just to do it. It got cold enough once. But I don't even know how y'all would scare me. And them fools drive their trucks out there, man. I'm not driving my truck out on a lake. Forget that. I wouldn't even drive my quad out there. I'd walk. That's just something mental for me. I know the ice is 66 feet thick. It don't matter to me. But speaking of that, you can have die-offs. The plankton still, the ice, you get light penetration through the ice, and it still makes oxygen down there in the daytime, just like in the regular time of the year. The plankton is still down there doing its thing, and that's how the fish can breathe under the ice, because the light can still penetrate the ice. So if you get a heavy snowpack though on top of that, that'll cut that light penetration. And that can have a fish kill due to oxygen depletion under the ice. So if you've got a pond and it's got heavy ice, just don't let it be heavy snow on top, and your fish will stay alive. Get a blower out there or something. Go snow shovel it. Got to shovel the pond. Keep the fish alive. Yeah. Oh, you're up there too, man? I thought you was in Florida. You said that was Rodman. How big was that fish, man? That's a nice one. This little screen I got looks like a unit right there. That was like every bit of a DD plus. Oh, Jermaine's got me thinking about 6 Sense though, man. One of the most bone jarring bites I ever had was in that it was a 250 acre lake. It's a watershed lake by my old house in Commerce, Georgia. One of the hardest strikes I've ever had though. They've got that, it looks like this bait. What's that thing called, man? Flow Glide. It's like $20 though. So if you want to try out something like that, and you don't want to spend, that kind of bread, I get that completely. That's ridiculous to spend a lot of money on most lures, in my opinion. I just like Mike, so I buy his stuff. But Flow Glide 130, I think they call it. Is that right, Jermaine? You know more about it than me, man. Frank. I think it's the Flow Glider 130. He did, dude. That thing, I'm telling you what, it was blowing wind. It was right at dark, and it wasn't even that big a bass, man. It was like 6.5 pounder. That thing almost completely snatched, and I was smoking it too. Bang, bang. It's a real pause. You'll see it. Mess with it up close where you can watch it. It's a technique where you pause the reel, you snap and pause, like about a half a turn, Jermaine, and come back. Keep your hands low and your rod tip not quite pointed at it. Just off. From pointing it right at maybe halfway like that, and then you get that cadence going to it. Get that thing working like that, and I mean roast it. Just burn the absolute paint off of it. And that's what I was doing, man. And I was doing it that way because the wind was blowing. I was in the yak, and the wind was blowing so hard, and I didn't have a drag chain or an anchor or nothing on me that day, like an idiot. And I had to paddle across the point I was fishing. It was the end of an island came out, and I had to paddle all the way across there for 3 decent casts because the wind was blowing me past there. Like it was like going by on the interstate, and I'd get to fish my 0.1 good cast, And so I was just burning it to try to get as many casts in because the wind was blowing so hard. And then I'd paddle back and come across it again, and paddle back and come across it again. About the third pass, dude, man, that 6 pounder hit it. And I don't know, it might have been with the way that it did hit it. I've actually got a picture of that somewhere. I use it sometimes. It wedged sideways in that bass's mouth. It literally wedged its mouth. It had both hooks, the front hook and the back hook, in the corner of the mouth. It was actually a really hard to get out the way that it had hooked itself. But it hooked itself with its mouth locked, literally wide open, like a 6 pounder, like that, the way it hit it. But I mean, when it hit it, dude, it was like a truck hit it. I mean, it just about took the rod out of my hand. It was the hard. I was on straight braid too, so I wasn't even fooling. It was muddy water, so I didn't care. But I was burning that flow glider and on straight braid. I can't remember. No, I don't think I had bull shad rod then. I don't remember what rod I was using. Daiwa had a rod big enough, like like an 8-foot stick. I was using a Daiwa rod. Where is that rod? I haven't seen that thing in a minute. I forgot about that rod. That's a pretty nice rod too. Wasn't too much either. Now I just use bull shad rods though, because Mike gives me a break on them, and they're the nicest swim bait rods, and they don't cost a fortune. I don't think they're over $200, even retail. But I always get cuts. I don't like to quote Mike's prices because he always gives me a hookup. But I didn't have that bull shad rod then. I'm pretty sure it was that Daiwa rod. But that was a pretty decent rod Daiwa makes, and it wasn't. I think it was like $140 for that thing. So you don't have to. That's the problem with fishing big baits. You need specialized gear, So you go get a big bait, well, then you need tackle to handle it, and overkill it on the straight braid too. I'm not even fooling. Like on that 11-inch trick shad, I'm 100-pound test, 100-pound straight braid. You'll crack off 30, 40-pound braid with these bigger. You can get more than 40 pounds of pressure on a big lure when if you cast it too hard, it'll pop it and yeet your swim bait out. So don't even fool with swim baits on straight braid on less than 65 pound. I don't. And just go straight braid to it. There's not going to be too much line in the water anyway, because I'm not even fooling with it. When I fish big baits, I fish them fast. Mike taught me that. Mike absolutely wore my ass completely out one time doing that when he was it wasn't this one. This is his glide, I think, but it's about the same thing. The trick shad was about this size, 6 or 7-inch trick shad. I went fishing with Mike. Man, he had me 12-2. And I mean, just burning it. He's on the motor and on the reel equally as fast when you fish with Mike Buka. He is covering water. He could fish all of Rodman Reservoir in an afternoon. He fishes so fast. Didn't bother me, but I was just interested, just making mental notes. You fish with dudes that good, you pay attention. Oh yeah, Hookin's saying he comes to Florida once a year, and 2.25. Well, that's about right. 25-inch bass should be about 25 and a quarter. I mean, we got my relative weight chart right here. What's it say out there? 9.3 for 25. So give it a couple tenths, maybe like 9.5, 9.6 would be standard weight for 25 and a quarter. And usually I would say Rodman, I don't weigh too many fish that are under 100% relative weight out there. They're usually about 100% in there. But I also don't catch any like 120% relative weighters either. So at 25 and a quarter, yeah, probably 9.5, 10 for Rodman. That's pretty accurate guess. Oh, was it 10.11? Oh, that's 100% relative weight, maybe 105%. That's about what I'm seeing on average. That's now that fish pre-spawn, oof, that fish pre-spawn could be 12.5 with full of eggs. That could be a unit. That could be like really pull it down. But you got to catch it, at that right time of year. Let's talk about that too. There's something guys always screw up. They talk about they get egg weight confused with fish weight, right? Because you're not gonna bust 10 on a fish under 24 inches, usually, even full of eggs. Like, because again, we'll just pull the standard weight back out. All right, that 24-inch fish at 8.1, packed full of eggs. Those fish will be about 10 and a half if they're absolutely just gorged with eggs, right? So, and I've seen them in ponds a bajillion times. You do the electrofishing survey before the spawn, and they're 10 pounds. You do it after the spawn, and they're 8 pounds, right? But they're still 24 inches long. They lost 2 pounds, but they lost 2 pounds of egg weight. They didn't lose 2 pounds of body weight. That's a big difference, right? If that 24-inch fish is losing 2 pounds of body weight and it's 6 pounds, that fish is lacking forage, just in horrible condition, right? That's where these guys are completely messing up on everywhere. Like, oh, that fish is skinny because it's spawned out. It's like, that fish is starving to death, dude. That fish should bulk up. The egg weight should make it way bigger than standard weight. Like that example I just used, where an 8-pounder turns into a 10-pounder, or that 25 and a quarter turns into almost a teener, right? It probably wouldn't quite have that many eggs to go 13, but man, I wouldn't put it past 12 and a half at 25 and a quarter full of eggs. Yeah, that's going to be a heavy joker. So if you're pulling that fish out after it's laid its eggs, yeah, it could look skinny like you're describing, right? That's absolutely a fact. Like, to your eye, you're like, man, that fish does look a little like it could be heavier because you did catch it pre-spawn or catch it post-spawn. But at the same time, if it was 10.1 pounds, it's still at standard weight. It's still healthy fish, right? It hasn't gone back down to 9 pounds or 8.5 pounds at 25 inches. That fish is not in good condition. And these guys are messing that up all over the internet. Nobody's understanding that at all. It's like, the fish should not be that long and skinny at this time of year. They're still calling them spawned. I've seen them call them spawned out in October. It's like, man, the spawn was 6 months ago. Oh, well, she's having a little bit of difficulty recovering from the spawn. No, she's not. She's not eating enough. There's not one of my fish in a decent pond that's way under standard weight like that. That doesn't happen. If they're that far under standard weight, that's a problem. All right, that's nothing to do with the spawn. So again, for the 16, 17 of you here, there's a little education. At least we'll know what we're talking about. You grew up in Central Florida? I just moved to Central Florida about a year and a half ago, man. I like it down here. I live in the Ocala National Forest, though, boy. I moved to the woods. When I say I got a cabin in the forest, I got a cabin in the forest. I see more bears than I do people. I like it that way too. Yeah, man. We were talking about that. I went live the other day. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this one, but I got back in town quick enough. I learned so much when I was a kid in college. I got to fish in a bass club, and of course, back then, kind of delusions of grandeur. I'm gonna get a fisheries degree and go be a bass fishing pro. Well, it only took about 1 year fishing in a bass club to know that I did not like bass tournaments, and nor did I like most of the dudes in the club, period. I was not enjoying myself at all. I did not like competitive fishing. It completely took the fun out of fishing for me, mostly because of the arguing and fighting and bickering like a bunch of women in a sewing circle, but that's a different story altogether. I looked at pro bass fishermen. Like, once I graduated with my degree, I had been in the bass club and then learned about like all the stuff that we're talking about now. Pro fishing was not for me. I looked at it as fool's gold is what it looked like to me. It looked like 2 or 3 guys were multimillionaires and the rest of them were a bunch of wannabes. And from what I'm seeing on like YouTube now and listening to the guys talk about, man, I'm, spending $30,000 to get in and not making it back. Fool's gold. I was dead on right. That's why I didn't even try. It's like, man, and even back then, bass boats were a fortune, and not compared to what they are now. Good Lord. But I don't know, man. My read on professional bass fishing was chasing fool's gold, and I think it was then, and I think it is now. I think there's a couple of guys that, like Van Dam, Kevin Van Dam obviously is a great fisherman. And I know he's a great fisherman because they had the classic one time at Lake Lanier. And the first time I ever went to a weigh in, I went over there and watched Kevin Van Dam weigh in 25 pounds of largemouth bass out of Lake Lanier, the biggest spotted bass reservoir on the planet. Like, I don't even know where he went. Well, he went in the river. Obviously, you could tell by the color of the fish. He was fishing in a river. I don't know what river he went up, the Chestatee or the Hooch. I don't know how he did it, what he did it on. I've never personally myself, I fished Lake Lanier. I don't even know how many times. Grew up right around there. I have not caught 25 pounds of largemouth bass out of Lake Lanier in my entire life. How he did it in one day of fishing, for that matter, to crush the field, because everybody else measured in a limit of spots that were dinks back then. There wasn't any blueback herring in the lake back then, so every spotted bass was about 1.5 pounds. I did catch a 6-pound spot in a tournament back then. Thought I had a striper, but they were few and far between. That's the biggest spot I've ever caught, was at 6. I thought I won big fish, but somebody else drug an 8-pounder out of the river and beat me on big fish that day. But anyway, the point of that whole story is Kevin Van Dam made millions of dollars bass fishing, but I bet nobody else in that field has even been heard of, except for maybe Rick Clun. He was there, but most of those guys from back then aren't around now anymore. Nobody even knows who they are. They don't even have a social media presence or nothing. Fool's gold, man. I bet she did have a mouthful of golden shiners, because man, we have got them in there, and all the guides do is fish golden shiners. That's all they'll even. If you take a guided trip out there, it's like $500-600 a day, and they just bring a tank full of shiners. Yeah, late February. She probably did just drop those eggs around here. They spawn early here. You want a good skunk ape story, man? I've been looking for the skunk ape, boy. I ain't lying, Chris. I've seen everything else on the planet. I swear to God, it's Jumanji out here. You do not know what is going to happen in the forest, man. It is no joke. I don't know. I've probably told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I'll pull out of the driveway right here. The neighbors, most people in this little community are they're all retired, or they have it's like just like their fishing or hunting cabin. There's a few people that live here full time, but most people here are, it's just a little cabin they keep in the woods, for coming out on holidays and stuff. And that's how my neighbor is. It's right across from me right there. They're not here much. So in that little yard, they don't cut it, all the time. So the grass will grow up, no big deal. And the turkeys love it. The turkeys will be in my yard when it rains for some reason. I guess something comes up, worms or something come out of the ground they like. They'll come up, because my whole yard is fenced in. I've only got a half acre, but it's all got a chain link around, which I kind of like. And but the turkeys will come through the gate in the yard on the heavy rain days. For some reason, they don't. The ladies that live down by the lake feed them so that you can almost pet the Osceola turkeys around here. They would not be hard to hunt. You can hunt them with a screwdriver, I think. But I'm pulling out to the drive, and there's 25 Osceola turkeys right there. So I'm like, oh, it's going to, that's interesting. There's a bunch of turkeys. Looking at them. Pull up the road. I look to the left to pull out onto the main road, look back to the right, and I've got to slam on brakes as I start to go. I'm looking to turn right, and I'm not looking where I'm going. I'm looking left, because I come flying through here sometimes, and pull out, and I got to slam on brakes to keep from running over a deer in the road. So I'm like, good Lord. So I let the doe go by, and a couple does actually go flying through there. So I'm like, all right, there's turkey. Now there's deer. Well, as I'm getting speed, I can see a snake coming across the road, and I'm like, what kind of snake is that? So I roll the window down. I put my head out as it's going across the middle line there. It's a little pygmy rattlesnake. It's actually that snake right there. Took his picture. and which was one of the nicer pygmies. Actually, it's not a small one. That's actually a really beautiful one. Got like copper down his back. Cool looking little rattlesnake. But we got rattlesnakes in the yard, so you got to watch yourself around here. Anyway, so I'm like taking that picture. So now we got Osceola, we got 20 Osceola turkeys, 2 or 3 whitetail, now a pygmy rattlesnake. Look down the road. There goes a black bear with its cub. And I mean, the cub is about as big as this mic. It's this little, like a teddy bear with it, goes bounding across the road. And I'm like, look at that. There goes some bears. And then out of the corner of my eye, like I can see, I'm getting up speed again, and I'm not going fast because there's animals everywhere. I don't want to hit anything. And I can see something in the corner of my eye like this, like I can just see it in my peripheral, kind of come past the window, then go back behind the truck. And I'm like, what in the hell? And I look over, and there's a damn peacock running in the ditch next to the truck, just running, looking at me like this, just looking at me, like running down the ditch. I don't know where the peacock came from. Must have got us out of somebody's yard, I guess. I don't know. Or it's just running around the damn forest. But it took me a minute to figure out what it was because it had such a long tail. It wasn't all fanned out like that. It had a long tail, it was like a brown thrasher ostrich combo kind of looking bird, But I mean, big old tall thing, like 3.5 foot tall. It was a big old bird. Crazy place, man. He used to catch them with the rattlesnakes. And so they got killed an old man down the road. Man, ain't messing with them things. Ain't gonna be messing with that rattlesnake. That's it, man. Everybody was fleeing out from Sam Squanch. I'm telling you though, and then I'll tell you all you boys these stories like this. And then if you were down here and we went out, the kids came down with my buddy Lee to do some turkey hunting this spring. And I been telling them about all the crap going on. Now, of course, they did kill a couple of Osceolas, so they got them under their belt. But I'm telling them all these stories about bears and, all this wildlife. And then to come out here, you don't see any of it. You don't see a bear. You don't see anything. I saw a bear yesterday. Ran behind the truck. I saw him in the rear view. Wasn't very big, couple 100 pounds. The blackest black. That's how you can tell it's a bear. It's so black. It's like there's nothing could be that black except a black hole or a bear. That's how you can tell it's a bear. The blackest fur ever. I had one almost knock me off the bicycle. It was in the woods. I was just riding for exercise, and it came tearing ass back across the road because I scared it. And it was close. I mean, closer than I preferred to be. Within 10 yards, right back across my 12. And like, man, that bear, if that bear would have been just 10 yards back and darted into the side of this, I would have got trucked by about a 300-pound black bear on a bicycle. That was a close one. Running scared for its life too. The biggest 300-pound baby you've ever seen in your life. Thank God they don't know how strong and badass they are. They're the biggest little wusses you've ever seen. Like, they're not mean at all. They're not scared. They're not brown bears. They're not Western grizzlies. You want none of that. They ain't like that at all. No, these bears are like the biggest scaredy cats you've ever seen in your life. Like, literally terrified. If they see you, they just bolt. Usually. I've had one big boy in the road that was probably 600 pounds that didn't give a rat flipping nothing about he had traffic stopped out there on 315. He just standing in the road looking at everybody like, what are y'all going to do about it? But he was the only one that I've ever seen that was that way. The rest of them just are terrified. If they see you, they'll just run. I can't get a picture of one. They're so scared. If they just see you and just turn and run. And nobody even hunts them. And it's like, why are y'all so scared? They had one bear hunt out here. The neighbor was telling me about it. A couple of years ago, the Biles decided, all right, we got to have a hunt. There's too many bears. So they sold all these tickets, like whatever, permits or whatever, to hunt the bear. And it was open for the weekend or a week. I think he said they opened it for a week, and they had like a head count, like 300 bears or something. We're going to allow this many bears to be shot, so you can come out here and shoot them. and then that's it. It's over with, and it's not running the whole week. And y'all are just going to go wild out and kill all the bears. You as soon as you bring it to the weigh-in station, and as soon as we get to 200 or 300 or whatever it was, hunt season's over for the bears. So everybody spent $100 on this stupid permit to go out there and hunt the bears. And by like 11:37, like hunting came like 6 in the morning or whatever, the season on the bear started. Before lunch, the season was over with. That's how many bears are out here. Those dudes paid $100 for a permit and got like 2 hours and 47 minutes of hunting or something. It was ridiculous. He seen one for real? Man, I want to see skunk ape. I never seen one. I damn sure ain't saying he's not out there though. Everything else is out there. Might as well be out there. Probably aliens out there and everything else. No telling. I would not call anybody a liar for what they see in the Ocala National Forest because good God knows what. There's no telling what. There's monkeys out here. All you got to do is go down to 40 and put in at Ray's Wayside. I'm gonna start a little paddle business, kayak business, probably, man. There's so many people down there paying $70 to go paddle down the damn river, not even down the whole river, just in the side of the state park. I think I'm gonna have to get some of that tourist money. And they got these little glass kayaks you can see through, little clear ones. And these dudes are paying $50 for a kid and $70 to go paddle in the park and get people to point out stuff to them, like that's a blue tilapia and that's pickerel weed and that's a skunk ape, you know. It's like a petting zoo going down through there. The animals don't care. They've been with like around the tourists down there. There's so many tourists. The animals aren't even scared of people in there. It's like about going to a petting zoo. So I think I am though. I think I'm gonna start a little. I think I'll start just tying it in with the social media stuff and just carrying tourists to paddle. You can't fish in there. The water's clear as vodka for about 5 miles. 550 million gallons of water coming out of the ground, out of the springs, out of a cave system that I think goes back up into Georgia. It's so big. Just pours natural spring water out all the time. It's pretty cool. But my God, gosh, like I can put in and paddle with a kayak. It's like $6, you know, $2 park admission and a $4 launch fee, and you can just go paddle the river. If you catch the thing back up, it'll cost you 21. They clip another $15 to catch a ride on the van, but you can paddle the whole river if you do that. It's about 3-4 hours, depending on how fast you go. It's pretty neat. But like I said, boys, it looks like easy money. They're rolling out 6, 8, 10 people at a time at $70 a head just to paddle around for a few hours. Looks like gravy money to me. Hell yeah, they got monkey tours, man. And by Ray's Wayside, where you take out is where you see them. That's where I see most of them. I'm going to take the long lens down through there probably this week. I'll start working on webpage stuff for that. Start posting up pictures of crazy. And they say the monkeys will they'll pillage your cooler. Like if you have a cooler on you, they know what that is. They'll just Wolvie Berserker style your cooler and rob everything you got out of the boat. They can be aggressive. You don't want to mess with the monkeys either. It's not the skunk apes though. That's a different kind of monkeys. These are the herpes monkeys. I don't even know what kind of monkeys they are. I need to take a picture of the sign. But they definitely have herpes and you don't want them to bite you. I read it in the book. They got monkeys are nasty as hell anyway. You don't want no part of a monkey. They're mean, and I don't know anybody who's had a good experience with them. They'll rob you. They're like little thugs. But they say like people who are like unwrapping stuff. Like one lady told me her cousin was with them paddling and was unwrapping a pack of cigarettes, trying to get a smoke. And then the next thing you know, monkey comes through, Tarzan's a pack of cigarettes out of his hand. So they will rob the crap out of you in there, man. You got to watch those monkeys. Damn monkeys. Bobcats? Yeah, we got bobcats. You know what? We got big, good looking, like German Shepherd sized coyotes too. Like the Yotes are fucking big. I can't say F word on here, but I shouldn't say the F word on here, but they are like the biggest coyotes I've ever seen. Big bushy tail, just ridiculous. I've seen the pack of them. You'll hear them out there at night sometimes. They'll get close to the house, but they're the same, man. They're real scared. They see you and they take off. But the biggest coyotes I've ever seen, I didn't even know coyotes got that big. And especially for Florida, I thought the animals were supposed to be smaller in the heat. That's like what we learned in biology class. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to be like littler animals and then bigger animals where it gets colder. But these coyotes are beasts. I wouldn't be messing with them either. This coyote population is big up there. We need to shoot these. Now, one of my neighbors, he'll remain nameless, but he's an old timer from around here, and he knows how to shoot them. You know how you kill a coyote? He says you get one of those. He goes, get a rifle, because as soon as they see you, they'll run. So, like, if you're in a truck, you got to be quick. But if you're in the woods, get your rifle ready. Be ready with it, and get one of those squeak toys from like PetSmart or something, little dog squeak toy, and put that thing on the ground and stomp on it and squeak it, and be ready. Because that'll bring them coyotes right to you. They'll think it's like a rabbit. I think like a dying rabbit or something, because you just needed that little squeak toy. He goes, he was a road rider, so you know how that goes. But you squeak that toy, and then the coyotes will come fly into it. And he said, then you put them on the dirt. I believe him too. I bet that works good. I've seen those. Have you seen those tails they make? They're little robot tails for shooting coyotes. It'll flick the ground like that. Like it looks like a squirrel's tail, and it'll flip back and two on a stick, but it'll also have a sound that comes out of it. That would work too. Really? Coyotes eating it like that? You know what I saw? That was crazy that I didn't know they would even do it, but I've never been around them that much, but everybody knows about it but me, I guess. But when I first moved down here, there was a like roadkill bear, a small one, like a little bitty one, not real little, probably like 100 pounds, but pretty small. Anyway, the vultures, turkey vultures were on it, but what was mixed in with the turkey vultures was a dang bald eagle, and he almost flew in front of the truck and got hit. But there was a bald eagle in there with the vultures just scavenging on the bear. I thought, I did not know bald eagle. I thought bald eagle would be out there catching fish. We've got one that lives right there. It's the male. The female, the nest is back up in the woods that way, but the male will sit down by the dock almost every day. You can get a picture of him anytime. He's almost tame. He doesn't fret. He don't fly off or anything. He'll just sit there and look at you. But I had no idea that what's the turkey vulture going to do? It's a bald eagle. You ain't going to mess with him, but they acted like buddies, man. Yeah, this is the same here. Well, I don't think the coyotes are protected. Is that what you're talking about? You can't mess with the eagles. I was thinking about eagles. You can't mess with the eagles. You can't mess with the bears. I was over at University of Florida the other day at the bookstore getting some stuff, reading up on manatees and getting some some weed ID stuff, plant ID stuff. I say weeds, I should say plants. Again, I'm serious about doing that kayaking business, so I'm studying up on all the stuff I don't know about around here. And again, the manatee season, that's the perfect time too to be working in Florida. They say it's busy at the state park in the wintertime because the manatees will come up into the river to get into the spring water. And they boys say they stay steady working all day long in the wintertime. I'm like, well, that's the perfect time to work around here. It's nice out then. It's like 65. Wintertime around here is a joke. Y'all would laugh y'all's butt off, Frank and y'all. You should see these people, man. It'll be like 58 degrees, and it'll look like they got that Iditarod gear on around here. It's like freezing to death to them. It hardly gets cold here at all. I'd like to see a golden eagle, man. That'd be cool. Hmm. They did it too? I didn't know that, man. I thought they were like predators, like kill their food and stuff. But because the bear had been out there, it wasn't like even a fresh dead. The bear had been there for not a week, but a couple of days, and it took the vultures a while to pick him clean. But like I said, one day then there's a stupid bald eagle in there eating him, and I'm like, I did not know they would do that, but they obviously will. Yeah, the bald eagles are cool, man. I like them. Now, some people out there, like what Frank's talking about in BC, they act like they're almost like pests. They'll get your fish off your damn rod. um. Anyway, yeah, I think you're right, Frank. Opportunistic. They don't care. I mean, what are you gonna do? I ain't messing with that eagle. You see that beak on that thing and the talons? Man, forget that. And the gator out there. I saw a gator kill another gator the other day. If it didn't kill it, it rattled its cage. It death rolled it like a Dremel drill bit. Just boop, 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 boop. And there was a gator out there that was about as long as my dadgum 13-foot kayak. It wasn't quite that long, but it was probably 11. It's like, all right, that's getting a little bit ridiculous. That's Godzilla size. I saw some baby gators the other day about that big. It had me paddling like I wasn't worried about them. I was worried about whatever hatched them out. But it was it was over in the state park, so you got nothing to worry about. It's a petting zoo over there. Yeah, right. The gators kind of freak me out too, man. I'll use like the smaller, like the Shoaly or the other. I got another kayak. What's that one? Perception, about 11, 12 footer. 11 and a half foot, I think, Perception Outlaw kayak. And I got that Shoaly from Drew a couple months ago. I don't know. That's gator shaped. You know what I mean? Like I was on the pontoon, the 13 footer with the seat and the troll motor. It's more boat shaped and bigger. And I don't mind being on it around the alligators, but that stuff that's low to the water and gator shaped, I'm not brave enough yet. At least not around here. I take it down to the state park, but like I said, everybody and their brother is over there. It's the animals are practically tame. I think the wood ducks understand to hang out near the alligators. Like I think they must have a deal worked out. Okay, you don't eat the baby wood ducks, and we're gonna hang out by you because they were like buddies in there. You'd see a gator, a pretty big one, and you think, man, that duck is a fool. Like, what is that duck doing? With all its little baby wood ducks are all around the alligators, you would think that thing is going to kill the hell out of you. They didn't. I keep seeing it repeatedly too. Like almost like the wood ducks know ain't nothing coming around the gator, so we're going to hang out by the gator. Well, when you come down, Frank, that's not going to be any trouble because there's more alligators out here than there is any daggone thing. The gators that you can see are not the problem, if you get my drift. No doubt hooking. I hear you on that. Put a motor on it. And really, probably this time of year, like I said, I saw those little baby gators the other day. They're like that. Now, once I did, like when I was on the Mossy Oak Gamekeepers podcast, the dude that came on a couple episodes after me, if y'all go back and look at that, he was an alligator expert. I was number 41 on there. So he'd probably be 45 or 50, somewhere in there. But there was an alligator expert that they had come through there on Gamekeepers. And once the water temperatures drop below 70, the gators kind of shut down. They're real warm water oriented. So once the water gets into the 60s, they don't really feed. It's kind of like bass. Like their body's so cool that they just don't require calories that much, and they got fat storage they live on the wintertime. So once the water temperature drops into the 60s, you're cool around the gators. They're not feeding anymore. It's kind of he was giving that to the bird hunters, the duck hunters, rule of thumb about having your dogs out there around them. Once the water temperature's in the 60s, you're good to go, which is good to know. I thought that was interesting, but I learned a lot from that podcast. That guy was that one fact just stuck in my head though. If your water temperature's in the 60s, you're cool around the gators. They're too cold to mess with you. They're not going to be eating. So that's good to know, because good Lord knows, there'll probably one in the yard right now. I know they'll come up on the bank to have their nest, because I saw one up pretty far up the bank. Shoot, boy. I tell you what, I'm not putting my hands in that water, Frank, and it ain't the alligators. Does not. It's the damn there you go. At the end of that sentence, the bull shark. Yep, that's one video. I saw that video too, man, where he gets to get snatched out in the Everglades down there with the bull sharks. Yeah, get you some of that, boy. Had some fool come on here talking about largemouth bass. I got a picture of a fish in Florida talking about largemouth bass don't have any predators. I'm like, dude, this is Florida. Everything's got predators. Hell, there's dolphins out in the lake sometimes. They'll come down the river into the barge canal up into the lake. Well, good luck getting away from a dolphin. Do you know what kind of hammer a dolphin is on freshwater fish with echolocation? Oh my good God. They come in here and have a party, I bet. I know those blue tilapia, I bet they smoke them. Just smoke them. But yeah, bull shark, big problem. No bueno. Want none of that. And I guarantee you, all you got to do, and that's what's amazing to me, because how far this place is from the coast. It's got to be an hour and a half to Jacksonville going up, because the St. Johns River actually flows north in Florida. It starts down south and comes up past me and then goes up to Jacksonville and goes out at the coast up there. But it actually flows north. The Ocklawaha does the same thing. It's coming from Silver Springs down there. It flows north, hangs a right, it hits Rodman right here behind the house. It's actually flowing east at that point where it gets big in Rodman. It flows east, then keeps going and hits the St. John's and continues flowing north that way. But you can go to Palatka to the St. John's River, right? That's fresh water. You can go bass fishing. That's where they launched the Bass Elite Tournament series out of, and throw a cast net off right there off the dock where the boats came up for the Pro Fishing Series, and catch shrimp and blue crabs right there. And 60 something miles from the coast. So that blew me away. I had no idea. I knew there was tidal influence in there. I knew that, but to see people shrimping consistently in pure fresh water like that, I had no idea, man. I'm with you on that one. Hooking, no bull sharks, no bueno. You don't want none of that. I bet they do find pet collars in their dens, man. Is that where you're at, MD, out in Texas? There's some wilderness out there too, boy. I hear you, Rick. I'm from Georgia. I'm from North Georgia, and I'm not used to it either, man. That's we did have a couple copperheads around, some timber rattlesnakes, but they're not really that abundant. There were coyotes, I guess, but not like this, man. This is absolute flipping wilderness around here. Oh, that's a good question, Frank. How tolerant of brackish water are the largemouth bass? So that's something else that I learned years ago. A buddy of mine he was a good biologist, Tony. He's probably the best biologist I've ever known, actually. This dude was smart. So he had a gig way back in the 90s. There was PCB testing and dioxin, furon, and all kind of weird chemical testing around industrial sites, paper mills and stuff like that. And so the EPA cracked down, made them fix whatever was causing that. I don't know, but I caught the tail end of that coming out of school. And Tony, he was such a good biologist. He worked for himself. It didn't matter where he went to work. Like he worked for like a consulting company or something. And the paper mills and the power plants and everybody that knew him followed him. So he had like a core group of people that no matter where he had a job, that they just went with him because he was real good. And I got on his sampling crew. We go sample for like 2 months at a time, go every day for 30 days, 40 days in a row. Sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit not as long, but it was really based on how fast you caught the fish. So we were on the Savannah River, and we had 3 locations we had to sample on the Savannah River, and the lowest location, we're going by on a 16-foot shocking boat, little aluminum, beater deal, past the ships with the shipping containers. Like, and I had no idea how big a ship was till I went by one, like a little pissy ass John boat. Those things are huge, man. Down in the port down in Savannah, like we were out there, and I'm looking at the ship going, it's a ship, man. It's like the ocean. Like, how are we going to catch largemouth bass here? And he turned on the juice, and the first fish that went by was a flounder. I'm like, oh man, because once you get to pure salt water, the shocking rig doesn't work anymore. You got to get nets. The salt water is too conductive and just trips the breaker. So you don't get. And I really did not want to have to get gill nets, because if you've ever had to pull a gill net, you know how much work that is, and it's awful. So we're at the coast. I mean, like I said, he turned it on. It was flounder, it was striper, it was the next fish that went by. I'm just like, my good God. Tarpon. We shocked up 2 tarpon down there, about, I don't know, 2 feet long, smallest tarpon I've ever seen. So we are almost in salt water. Like, we're never going to get any bass here, never. Like, we're going to be here. And it was like 45 degrees that day, and it never works out, when you plan, because the job's planned a year in advance. I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, this is going to suck. This is absolutely going to suck. We're going to be out here forever. And like I said, flounder, tarpon, shit. So we go across the river, and we're working up the edge, and the tide's coming in, so we can get up right on the edge. And there was an old oak tree that had got blown into the river, and it was like probably like a 200 or 300-year-old oak tree. The thing's a beast of a tree, right? Still mostly intact. I mean, it didn't have a short limb or the small limbs on it or anything, but it still had limbs, and it obviously had been pushed down the river for probably 100 years after it gotten blown in. But it was a classic blowdown, like you'd see at a lake, And I told Tony, I just looked back at him, did like that, said, kill the power. Let's move up on that tree, and maybe we can get some bass off that tree right there. Like we do, you sneak up on them. You don't want them to feel the current as you come. So you let off of it, get over the structure, and hit it. And that's exactly what we did. It's a real effective technique for a shocking rig. Man, if there was one bass sitting on that blowdown, there was 400 bass sitting on that blowdown. Literally just went boom. I mean, nothing but bass too. Nothing but bass. I couldn't believe it. Like, and I'm grabbing all the wrong fish, because we needed fish like in the 12 to 15 inch slot, and I'm netting all the big ones. And he's like, don't get the big ones, get the ones we need. And I'm like, oh yeah, idiot. So I'm dumping the big bass out of the net and pulling so many bass. He's just throw them in the bottom of the boat. He just dump all of them, just because I don't even remember how many fish we needed. But we literally got them all there. We weren't on the water an hour. We got them all on that tree, all, like I said, like just largemouth bass. I mean, there was from 1 pound to 6 pound largemouths all on that one tree, literally out there, damn near in the ocean, where there's flounder and striper and tarpon and crap. So practically till it's salt, man. Like they go just it doesn't bother them. They can tolerate it. They're tough. Funny follow-up to that story. 4 years later, or 3 years later, I think maybe 3 or 4 years later, Tony's got to go back and do that again. Got to do the same sampling job. And he hit me up, but I couldn't go with him. I had to work. I had a different, schedules conflicted. I was right out of college, so it was actually great to have a 30 or 45 days worth of work because I wasn't working full time for myself at that point. He said he went back out there. He went back out to the same spot, found that same damn oak tree, and did the exact same thing and caught every largemouth bass he needed. And I didn't even fool around at other places. We went straight to the tree, got the bass we needed, and left 3-4 years later. So that'll tell you about holes and how much bass like certain spots. That's a good question, though, Frank. Hope that helps. They go all the way to the ocean. Pretty much, yeah, man. I believe it. There'd be red drum. They catch red drum out there. And actually, some dude told me sometimes on certain years, you can catch flounder by the springs in Rodman Reservoir. They've caught flounder in here. Like they can tolerate fresh water and come right up in here. So, like I said, there's already shrimp and crabs out there in the river. I don't know why there wouldn't be flounder and every daggone thing else. No telling what the heck you're going to find around here. But it really is amazing. Like you would think that you wouldn't get that much crossover that far into fresh water, but you do. It's wild. Absolutely wild. And the longer I go, the more people. 22. I think that's a record. Throw up the deuces. 22. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm just sitting here telling stories about shocking fish. If you guys have any pond questions, I'll be glad to answer them. It's probably about time to get off. If I've run them much longer than 2 hours, nobody watches them. 23. We're setting world records now. I'll be doing autographs up, back down to 22. That guy didn't like me. Yeah, I'll be setting up an autograph booth. You guys can come get my autograph. 22 followers. Oh, my throat's getting dry. My nose is getting scratchy. For whatever reason that happens. It's getting hot because I got to turn the air conditioner off so it doesn't give a bunch of background noise in here. I tell you what, man, these mics will pick up anything. They really will. Let me go back. I'm going to scroll back real quick. Make sure I didn't miss anybody's question. Somebody might have asked a question that I'm just running my yap. I need to get another guest on here. I've tried to set up a few people, but you know how that works out. Everybody's got something else to do. Hayes said he'd come on. Andrew Hayes from Tackle Talk. You get him on here. I can harass him with questions. Talk about somebody who's had some famous people on, man. Andrew's got, like everybody knows him. I don't think I missed anyone. All right, boys. I'm going to give it up on you. Oh, you heard me on Tackle Talk? Yeah, appreciate you, Rick. Says he's heard of Tackle Talk. Yeah, we'll get Andrew on, man. Maybe next weekend, maybe the weekend after. I was supposed to do it last week, but that got messed up. Like I said, everybody's got a schedule. Nobody can get on the same page most of the time. It makes it hard. I don't know how he does it. He does guests all the time. I can't hardly get anybody to guest with me. I'm thankful for the guys that I have had on. We've had Mike Buka on here. We had Drew Gregory on here. Had my man Hokey Fish Biologist on here. Oh, thanks, Marty, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. No problem. Thanks for hanging out with me, boys. I really appreciate it. I am 39 hours away from the 4,000 hours that is required to be fully monetized on YouTube. And that's because you guys come and listen to me talk about dumb crap. And that's cool. Yeah, Wham Bates. I had Wham Bates on. Don't forget about Wham. Check out his plastics, man. He's got some cool stuff going on. And I got to get Frank on because he's freaking hilarious. I can't say the F word. I said the F word. They're probably not going to give me money now because I said the F word. They probably would too, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they go, you're not monetized. Sorry, big boy. Thanks, David. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, it's been well, I started doing it, like, I've been messing with YouTube for a few years, but YouTube's a different animal. You got to be consistent. And I do these lives because it counts towards, like, you can do shorts. If the shorts doesn't count the same way that these lives count like a video watch. I'm not sure if you guys hours who are watching right now will count, but once I turn it off and it becomes a video, I think those hours count. And since there's only like 20 people on here right now, but they'll end up being about 150 people. So there'll be like 100 people who, however long they watch it, accrues towards my video hours. I think that's how YouTube is being sneaky, but that's all right. These lives, once I started doing these things weekly, my hours really started jumping and running good. Does it count? That's good to know, man. I wasn't sure. And what you post. But yeah, you got to post long format videos. Even if that long format video is only like a minute and 1 second, not the short format. The short format I know doesn't count because they track that differently. If that counted, because they share that differently too. Those short format videos get shared like crazy. I've had a few of those blow up, but they're just competing with TikTok doing that crap. I'm not doing TikTok. I'm not doing business with the Chinese. Oh, you just got through too? I'll have to come check you out, hooking up. Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of work though, isn't it, man? Shoot. YouTube is a beast. Like I said, you got to be doing this, you got to be doing videos, and you got to be doing short format. So that's all right. It's been fun. I've enjoyed doing this. I like doing this. This is pretty cool. I like the engagement, like people can ask questions and you can address them, it's pretty straight up. Anyway, I'm done. I'm tired and hungry, and I appreciate you fellas, and I'll be back in about a week. So until then, we'll talk to you later. I'll be monetized, then I'll be rich. Later, boys.